EMR and Practice Management, Hyperlink and Filtered ICD Search Tool. With the recent transition to ICD-10, Prognosis implemented the Hyperlink tool to enable you to better identify the appropriate ICD-10 code for the corresponding ICD-9. We're going to take a look at one of those tools, which is the Hyperlink and Filtered ICD Search. I've logged in here to Prognosis as Dr. Cooper, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the chart for Olivia Pope. For this video, I am going to primarily demonstrate the functionality of the Hyperlink and Filtered Search from my assessment screen. However, it is applicable throughout the system under other screens, such as past medical history, different search screens, different master files, and over in the billing module, we will also see it at the claim level. So while I have Olivia Pope's chart open, I'm going to go ahead and click on the Assessment tab. And you'll notice that the defaulting diagnosis of abdominal pain is hyperlinked with a blue underlined font, and that is my ICD code 789.07. And you'll see beside it my ICD-10 column is currently blank. Now incidentally, I just want to point out, in my case here of Olivia Pope, the diagnosis is already here. And that is because one of our workflows is that whatever chief complaint is chosen under HPI, the ICD can default if it is defined under the complaints master. And that is the setup I have here. So this point is to demonstrate that the hyperlink may fall out of the master file, but we're also going to see it in a little bit on the search screen if we were searching for an ICD code brand new. Of course, since October 1st, every claim needs to have an ICD-10 code. So in order to map this, I'm going to go ahead and click my 78907. Now what that is going to do is open up a filtered search screen. The hyperlink is automatically filtered to the code that you have chosen. And notice here in the upper left that our filtered search actually has two tabs. In the case of our 78907, it's defaulting to our preferred, and I've got two entries of 78907 with different descriptions. Now, in my specific example, my SNOMED and ICD-10 happen to be the same, but depending on your scenarios, you may have different combinations. I also have the standard search available to me here. So if the code I'm looking for is not one of the ones I've already defined in my preferred, maybe I don't want the generalized abdominal cramping or the chronic generalized pain, I can go to my standard, and notice here it also is filtered all the way down to 78907. I have my scroll bar, which helps me go down all the way to the bottom. Depending on how many there are, I may want to scroll, or the other benefit of my filtered search is I have the keyword search up here. So instead of scrolling, if I know I want the description to include the word cramp, I can minimize my search time by filtering it to that keyword. So the hyperlink filters to all possible ICD-10 SNOMED combinations for only the one ICD-9 that I have chosen back on my assessment. If it's on my preferred tab, that will be my default. So the assumption, of course, of the system is if I've already defined a preference, I want to start with those. If it's not there, however, it will go to my standard by default, which also then extends me the additional allowance of being able to search for additional keywords. Now this is filtered to the ICD-9, so your search will not invoke another ICD-9 search, but it will allow you to search either for additional descriptions within the disease name or for a specific ICD-10 code. Now notice that it's immediately prompting me if I would also like to update my master file. You'll recall that when I opened Olivia Pope's assessment screen, we already had the diagnosis there, and that is because it defaulted out of my complaint master. So whenever there is an ICD associated with the chief complaint under the HPI, you're going to get this prompt if you have appropriate update rights to the complaints master. So I have an option here of either updating my primary ICD on that workflow complaint or adding it as an additional optional ICD to that complaint. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose yes, I do want to update my master file and save my assessment. So now you'll notice that my 78907 is still hyperlinked, even though I have an ICD-10. And this is so I can modify the ICD-10 if I need to. it may come down the pike that R10.84 isn't really the appropriate one after all. So if I would like to change it, I can go back into my hyperlink. Again, it executes that filtered search specifically for my 78907, and this time I can go ahead and choose, let's say it's the cramping one that I meant to choose. Since I modified it, it's again asking if I would like to update the master. This time I'm going to say add a new record to the optional list. So the hyperlink tool and the filtered search is that simple. Now again, I demonstrated it here for an ICD code that already existed. If I click my plus sign, which is the general search, I also have the hyperlink tool here. Now within the general search, however, my hyperlink is only on the preferred tab, like we see, and on my custom tab. If I click the standard tab, there is no need for a hyperlink because the codes are already linked to ICD-10s on the standard search. Now speaking of the custom tab, for those of you who use custom descriptions, when you map a custom ICD-9 code to an ICD-10, you are not going to lose your custom description. I'm going to go ahead here, for instance, for my hypertension and click on my ICD-9 because I want to link it to a specific ICD-10. However, I want to keep my internal description that I have customized. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this long one just for the exercise because that is the ICD-10 that I want. But notice it retained my custom description even though it now linked it to an ICD-10. So on the custom and preferred tabs, the hyperlink will be there when it is not mapped. However, you'll notice that once the ICD-9 is mapped to an appropriate SNOMED and ICD-10, it is no longer hyperlinked at this point. So from that point on, if you need to change the association, then you would have to go under the specific preferred master or custom master to do so. While I'm here on the assessment, I will go ahead and open up that C code, and here you see that one that I updated. The last abdominal code, when I changed it, I said I did want to update it as an optional ICD, and here it is. Notice since it's mapped, it is not hyperlinked within the search screen. Now, this of course is showing codes from the underlying master file. So I could go to the master file and change the association if needed. So bottom line, just as we covered here on the assessment, it's also true elsewhere here in EMR, such as past medical history and vaccinations. The purpose of the hyperlink of the ICD-9 code is if it is not yet mapped to an ICD-10 after October 1st, it allows you to map it to an appropriate one. And then from October 1st forward, the hyperlink will allow you to change it or maintain it if that is needed. Now this hyperlink is also applicable on the practice management side. So I'm going to go ahead and toggle into billing, and we're going to open up a claim. Now on the billing side, it's a little easier because we only have the one screen to contend with. So unlike EMR, where we have multiple screens that support the hyperlink, here in billing we're only going to show you the hyperlink at the claim level. So we see here in the ICD table on the left side of my claim page, my ICD-9 is hyperlinked. And again, even one that already has an ICD-10 mapped is hyperlinked in case I want to change it. One that is not mapped, I will have to map it, of course, before I can bill my claim. And when I click that code, it is going to invoke the filtered search. So the functionality is exactly the same for EMR and practice management. You choose the hyperlink, it opens a filtered search, and then you choose the appropriate ICD-10 SNOMED combination that you would like. Now here on the billing side, there are no underlying master files to be updated, so you are not going to get that prompt like we saw on the assessment. So in review of the hyperlink and filtered ICD search tool, we learned that your existing ICD-9 codes will display as a blue underline label on the applicable screen. This hyperlink is supported throughout Prognosis on different screens. When you execute the hyperlink, it will invoke a search of ICD-10 and SNOMED codes specific to the ICD-9 code that you've selected. The filtered search includes a keyword search field so that you can further drill down to a specific code based on the specific criteria relevant to the disease. When you choose the associated ICD-10 SNOMED from this filtered search screen, is going to update that local screen from where you executed the hyperlink, whether that's the assessment, the past medical history, the claim, etc. And it will prompt you if you would also like to simultaneously update any underlying master file if there is one.